Greetings at Cheating Story Lab. Share your location and let me know where you're joining us from. The instant that shatters you might also be the one that ultimately frees you. My name is Alex. I am 42 years old. For 15 years, I believed I had crafted an ideal marriage with my wife, Vanessa. She was driven, attractive, and possessed a charisma that made her stand out in any crowd. I took pride in being her husband, in backing her career, in providing the stability she needed as she aimed for greatness. In hindsight, my pride proved to be my greatest blunder. Vanessa worked in marketing at an upscale consulting firm. She was exceptional at her job, sealing deals that seemed unattainable to many others. Her self-assuredness was captivating, and I respected her ability to command a room with authority. However, over time, that assurance transformed into something unsettling in our domestic sphere. Initial mutual aspirations morphed into dismissive remarks concerning my role as a software developer. Shared decision-making turned into one-sided choices regarding our life. What once felt like love now seemed more like tolerance. The shifts were initially imperceptible. She'd return home late, attributing it to significant client dinners. She'd be engrossed in her phone, citing work emergencies. Her wardrobe transformation and increased spending on fashion and spa services were justified as necessary for maintaining a professional image. I desired to trust her. I wished to accept that her career was consuming more of her time and energy. However, a gnawing suspicion persisted. Approximately 6 months before her 38th birthday, I began noticing discrepancies I could no longer ignore. She'd receive messages late at night and venture outside to respond. She'd vanish for extended periods on weekends, explaining it as networking or shopping with clients. Suddenly locking her laptop upon my entry, she would hastily shut it. The most distressing aspect was the altered behavior towards me in public settings. At social events, she'd make humorous comments about my job, interests, attire, not harsh enough to be openly criticized, but still making me feel diminished. Her companions chuckled along, and I feigned amusement, hiding my pain. Overwhelmed with shame, I engaged a private investigator, Robert, a former police detective who specialized in infidelity cases. The mere act of scheduling the meeting made me queasy, but I needed to unveil the truth. Unable to endure the haze of suspicion and self-doubt any longer, the investigation spanned 3 weeks, during which I feigned normalcy while secretly hoping for my mistake. 3 weeks of pretense as Robert trailed Vanessa, chronicled her activities, and snapped photos. For 3 weeks, I've been functioning as a devoted spouse while quietly dismantling my life due to impending collapse. When Robert phoned and suggested we meet at his office, I recognized the inevitability. His voice disclosed everything prior to any verbal explanation. The proof was damning. Vanessa had been engaging in an affair with her superior Marcus Chen for nearly 8 months. The photographs depicted them in upscale eateries, entwined fingers above candlelit tables, entering and departing luxurious hotels during daylight hours, exchanging passionate kisses in parking lots like high school sweethearts. But it wasn't merely the affair. Robert had also unearthed financial discrepancies. Vanessa had covertly obtained a credit card and squandered thousands on presents, dinners, and weekend escapes. She even utilized our combined savings to fund a romantic holiday with Marcus, deceiving me by claiming she was attending a work conference in Chicago. The deception was total. She wasn't merely infidelitating in our union, she was pilfering from our prospective happiness. That night, I found myself contemplating my subsequent actions while gazing at the ceiling. A part of me yearned to confront her swiftly, displaying the evidence on the kitchen table and demanding explanations. Another part of me considered slipping away silently, leaving without a trace. However, memories of her meticulously planned birthday party surfaced. For weeks, Vanessa had been orchestrating an extravagant dinner gathering at our home, inviting 25 guests, colleagues, neighbors, and acquaintances. She'd procured a caterer, selected expensive wines, and had been incessantly discussing this event as the epitome of her professional triumph and our harmonious life. The irony was stifling. I opted to allow the celebration to transpire, enabling her to relish her victorious moment, before subtly dismantling the deceptions she'd woven into our marriage. I spent the following week meticulously preparing my actions. Arranged all the photographs as evidence, financial documents, credit card bills. Consulted a divorce lawyer and initiated the legal proceedings. Opened a separate bank account to transfer our shared assets. Crucially, compiled a digital dossier. Leveraging my software expertise, I put together a multimedia presentation with the most incriminating evidence. Images of Vanessa and Marcus, text messages expressing affection obtained by Robert, credit card bills detailing her secret expenditures. Stored it on a cloud drive and prepared to share the link at her birthday party gathering. The evening of the event arrived. Our home was tastefully decorated by Vanessa. She had transformed our living and dining rooms into something straight out of a magazine. The catered food smelled delicious, wine was being poured generously, and everyone was enjoying themselves while celebrating my spouse's birthday. I played the gracious host. I offered smiles, engaged in chatter, filled glasses, and praised the attire of the guests. None were aware that I was on the verge of shattering the life Vanessa believed she had crafted. Around 9, as the main course was being dished out, Vanessa rose to propose a toast. She gleamed in her fresh dress, clutching her wine glass, brimming with self-assurance and delight. "I'd like to express my gratitude for your presence tonight," she declared, her voice echoing its customary strength. "This year has been exceptional professionally, and I couldn't have achieved it without the backing of all the remarkable individuals in my life." She fixed her gaze on me and smiled. "Particularly my extraordinary spouse Alex, who maintains our household effortlessly while I pursue my aspirations." The slight derision in her tone was discreet, but I caught it distinctly. Similarly, several guests did, evident by the uneasy glances exchanged. That's when Marcus spoke from afar across the table. "She's incredibly accomplished," he declared, toasting her. "She's gifted, determined, and stunning, the best woman I've ever known." Hearing him say stunning made my stomach churn. Her blush and demure glance only added to it. They were flirting, seemingly unaware of our dinner guests watching at the kitchen table, but what followed left me stunned. One of our neighbors, Janet, innocently commented on Vanessa's good fortune in having such a supportive spouse. "Alex must be so proud of your dedication," she said affectionately. Vanessa's expression altered instantly. "Oh, well," she retorted with a sarcastic laugh. "Alex does his part, I suppose, though occasionally I wish he had a bit more drive, you know. Not everyone can be a self-starter." The room fell silent. I could feel the heat rising in my face as the dinner guests seemed to focus intently on their food. Marcus chuckled. "Various individuals possess distinct abilities," he noted tactfully, yet his self-assured tone was discernible. It was then that Vanessa blundered catastrophically. "Indeed," she agreed, sipping her wine casually. "Some individuals assume leadership roles while others," she waved vaguely towards me, "tend to follow." The contempt in her voice was so unassuming, so effortlessly dismissive, it seemed I barely warranted the energy required to belittle me. Slowly, I pushed away from the table, my chair screeching against the hardwood floor. "Vanessa," I whispered sternly, interrupting the tense silence. "I believe there's something you ought to review." She stared at me with annoyance, likely expecting an emotional or defensive response. "What are you implying?" she snapped impatiently. I pulled out my phone and began typing. "Review your emails, everyone," I sent. The message was dispatched simultaneously to every person present at the table. Title: Vanessa Ace Birthday Surprise Revealed. A hush fell over the room as people checked their phones for about 30 seconds. Janet gasped first, her hand flying to her mouth as she stared at her screen. Tom from next door let out a low whistle. Marcus turned deathly pale, his wine glass midair. Vanessa, frantic, scrolled through her phone, her expression shifting between confusion, shock, and anger. "Alex," she whispered shakily. "What have you done?" I confessed the truth calmly. "Since it appears honesty isn't a requirement in this marriage, a slideshow of your and Marcus's romantic moments, their explicit texts, and credit card statements showing thousands spent on their affair, including the fake conference trip to Chicago, were playing on 25 different screens." She exclaimed angrily, standing up. "You hired someone to trail me?" To her accusation, I calmly responded, "You violated my trust. You drained our shared account to finance your affair." At that moment, she slapped me forcefully on the left cheek in front of everyone dear to her. The impact reverberated through the dining room like a gunshot. I tenderly touched my cheek and surveyed the guests' reactions. Some were horrified, others were discreetly gathering their belongings. Marcus appeared to want to vanish entirely. "Thank you," I addressed Vanessa audibly for all to hear. "I had been uncertain about ending our marriage with grace, but you have just demonstrated how." I made my way to our bedroom, retrieved the suitcase I'd prepared earlier, and returned to the dining room. The majority of guests had departed already, but a few lingered hesitantly. "The meal has already been catered," I declared. "Remain and savor the moment." As if it were a goodbye gathering for Vanessa, I approached the front door, then turned around once more. "By the way, Vanessa, the divorce documents are on your nightstand. Your lawyer can contact mine." I exited that house without a backward glance, the ensuing months proving challenging yet liberating. The divorce was complex but easy to navigate. Her infidelity and financial dishonesty streamlined the proceedings. I retained our home, she claimed her disgrace, and we both claimed our distinct futures. I learned through mutual acquaintances that Marcus's relationship ended swiftly following that evening. Seems having an affair exposed to one's entire social network can put a strain on romance. 6 months later, I ran into Janet at the supermarket. She informed me that Vanessa had relocated across the country, rebuilt her life somewhere fresh. Marcus quietly lost his job at the consulting firm. You recall, Janet mentioned, I've always admired your composure from that particular night. Many people would have succumbed to chaos. I returned a smile and expressed gratitude, but the reality is more intricate. I wasn't composed due to some exceptional emotional control. I was composed because I stopped feigning. For months, I lived in a haze of suspicion and self-doubt, doubting my own understanding of reality. The instant I decided to stop shielding Vanessa's deception was the moment I started safeguarding my honor. At times, the most potent action is merely departing. Not with rage, not with spectacle, but with tranquil assurance that you deserve more. That slap at her birthday party wasn't the climax of my tale. It was the commencement. Thanks for observing. If this narrative strikes a chord, click on the subscribe button and share your thoughts in the comments about how you would have handled my predicament. And keep in mind, self-respect is never up for discussion.